Katie Miller wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stacked the last box of cereal on the shelf. The afternoon sun streamed through the large windows of Green's grocery store, making the air inside feel thick and warm. She had been working for 6 hours straight, and her feet ached in her worn sneakers. Only 30 minutes left until her shift ended, and she could finally go home to her small apartment. The store was busy today. Families pushed their carts down the narrow aisles. Children begged for candy, and elderly customers moved slowly through the produce section. Katie had seen it all before. She had been working at this grocery store for 2 years now, saving money for college while living on her own in Portland Dock. As she bent down to pick up a dropped can of soup, Katie noticed an elderly woman standing. Near the dairy section, the woman looked confused and lost. She was small and thin, with silver hair that hung loosely around her shoulders. Her clothes were simple but clean, and she carried an old leather purse that looked like it had seen many years of use. The woman was staring at a carton of milk, turning it over in her hands like she had never seen one before. She picked up different items, examined them carefully, then put them back down. Her movements were slow and uncertain, as if everything in the store was strange and new to her. Katie watched the woman for a few minutes. Other customers walked past her without stopping to help. Some even looked annoyed when the woman blocked their path to the milk. Katie felt sorry for her. She remembered how her own grandmother had struggled with simple tasks before she died. Last year, the woman finally began moving toward the checkout lanes with her cart. Katie could see that she had only a few items: a loaf of bread, a small carton of milk, some apples, and 2 cans of soup. It was not much food, certainly not enough. For a week, Katie was supposed to stay at her station and finish stocking shelves, but something made her want to help. She left her work area and walked over to where the woman was standing in line. "Excuse me," Katie said gently. "Are you finding everything okay?" The woman looked up with surprising bright blue eyes. There was something unusual about those eyes. They seemed much older than the rest of her face, as if they had seen many years and many things that others could not imagine. "Oh, hello, dear," the woman said. Her voice was soft but had a strange accent that Katie could not place. "I'm having some trouble with these items. Everything is so different from what I remember." "Different how?" Katie asked, curious about what the woman meant. "The packaging, the prices, the way things are organized. It has been a very long time since I have done this myself," the woman explained. She looked down at her purse and opened it slowly. Inside, Katie could see a small pile of crumpled bills and some old coins. "I'm not sure I have enough money for all of this," the woman said quietly. She looked embarrassed and sad. Katie felt her heart go out to the woman. She had been in that situation herself many times, standing in line at stores and counting every dollar to make sure she had enough. It was a terrible feeling, especially when other people were watching and waiting. "Let me help you," Katie said without thinking. "We can figure this out together." The woman's eyes widened with surprise and gratitude. "You would do that for me, but you do not even know me." "That is okay," Katie said with a smile. "Everyone needs help sometimes." Katie helped the woman move to her checkout lane since she was working as a cashier today in addition to stocking shelves. She rang up each item carefully, watching the woman's face as the total grew on the register screen. The bread cost $3.50. The milk was $4. The apples were $5.20. The 2 cans of soup were $3 each. When Katie pressed the total button, the screen showed $18.70. The woman slowly counted out her money. She had a $10 bill, a $5 bill, and some coins. Katie counted along with her. $15.40. The woman was $3.30 short. "I will have to put something back," the woman said sadly. She looked at her small pile of groceries and tried to decide what she could do without. "No, you will not," Katie said firmly. She reached into her own wallet and pulled out a $5 bill. "This will cover the rest." The woman stared at Katie in shock. "I cannot let you do that. You work hard for your money." "Please, I want to help," Katie said. "It is just a few dollars and you need these things." The woman's eyes filled with tears. She reached out with a shaky hand and touched Katie's arm. "You are very kind. I have not met many people like you in recent years." Katie completed the transaction and helped the woman put her groceries in 2 paper bags. The woman moved slowly, as if she was very tired or perhaps not feeling well. Katie offered to carry the bags to her car, but the woman said she had taken the bus and could manage. As they walked toward the store's exit, the woman turned to Katie. "What is your name, dear?" "Katie Miller," she replied. "Katie," the woman repeated as if she was memorizing it. "My name is Vera. I want you to know that your kindness means more to me than you can possibly understand." There was something about the way Vera said those words that made Katie feel strange. It was as if Vera was not just talking about the groceries, but about something much more important. "I hope I see you again," Katie said as they reached the door. Vera smiled, and for just a moment, Katie thought she saw something flicker in the old woman's eyes. It was like a flash of light or maybe fire, but it happened so quickly that Katie thought she must have imagined it. "Oh, my dear Katie," Vera said softly, "I have a feeling that we will meet again very soon, sooner than you think." Vera gripped Katie's hand with surprising strength. Her skin felt warm, almost hot, and Katie felt a strange tingling sensation run up her arm. The feeling was not unpleasant, but it was definitely unusual. "Your kindness will not be forgotten, child," Vera whispered. "Not by me and not by others who care about such things." Before Katie could ask what she meant, Vera released her hand and walked slowly out of the store. Katie watched through the window as the old woman made her way to the bus stop across the street. She sat down on the bench and waited, her 2 bags of groceries beside her. Katie returned to her work, but she could not stop thinking about Vera. There had been something different about her, something that Katie could not quite explain. The way she had spoken, the way she had looked at the groceries, and especially the way her eyes had seemed to glow for just a moment. When Katie's shift ended 30 minutes later, she looked out the window toward the bus stop. Vera was gone. Katie hoped the old woman had made it home safely with her groceries. As Katie walked to her own bus stop, she felt good about what she had done. $3.30 was not much money to her, but it had obviously meant a lot to Vera. Katie's mother had always taught her to help others when she could, and today she had been able to do exactly that. Katie had no idea that her simple act of kindness had just changed everything. She did not know that Vera was not who she appeared to be, or that helping her would soon bring visitors from very far away. All Katie knew was that she had helped someone who needed it, and that felt right. The bus arrived, and Katie climbed aboard, tired but satisfied with her day. She looked forward to going home, making some dinner, and relaxing before her classes tomorrow. It had been a good day, even if it had been long and tiring. Katie Miller had knowing that in just a few hours, 12 of the most powerful spaceships in the galaxy would be heading directly toward Earth, all because of what she had done for an elderly woman in a grocery store. The old woman who called herself Vera sat quietly on the bus as it rumbled through the streets of Portland. Her 2 bags of groceries rested on her lap, and she stared out the window at the passing buildings and cars. But her mind was not on the city around her. Instead, she was thinking about the young woman who had helped her at the store. Katie Miller. The name echoed in her thoughts like a bell ringing in the distance. For the first time in over 100 years, someone had shown her pure kindness without wanting anything in return. It was such a simple thing, paying for a few dollars worth of groceries, but it had touched something deep inside her that she thought was lost forever. The bus stopped at 5th Street, and Vera slowly got off. She walked 3 blocks to a small apartment building that looked like it had been built 50 years ago. The paint was peeling, and the windows were old and cracked. It was not a nice place to live, but it was cheap and quiet, and nobody asked questions about the woman who paid her rent in cash every month. Vera climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, her bags growing heavier with each step. By the time she reached her door, she was breathing hard and felt dizzy. She unlocked the door and stepped inside her small apartment. The apartment had only 3 rooms, a tiny kitchen, a bedroom, and a living room that was barely big enough for a couch and a table. There was no television, no computer, and no decorations on the walls. It was the home of someone who was just trying to survive, not someone who was living. Vera set her groceries on the kitchen counter and sat down heavily on her couch. She felt more tired than usual today, and her body ached in ways that worried her. For months now, she had been getting weaker and weaker. Some days, she could barely get out of bed. She knew that her time was running out, but something was different. Now, something had changed when Katie had touched her hand and spoken to her with such kindness. Vera could feel it like a warm glow in her chest, growing stronger as the minutes passed. She closed her eyes and let her mind drift back to who she really was. Her true name was not Vera, it was Serafina, and she was not human. She was a dragon, one of the last of the ancient ones who had ruled the stars for thousands of years before humans had even learned to make fire. Serafina had been born 3,000 years ago on a planet called Drakmor in a star system far beyond what humans called the Milky Way. She had been a powerful dragon, with scales that shone like emeralds and wings that could carry her across entire continents in a single day. She could breathe fire that burned hotter than the center of a star, and her roar could be heard from one end of a planet to the other, but that was long ago, before the curse that had trapped her in this weak human form. The curse had been placed on her by another dragon, one who had been jealous of her power and angry about a battle they had fought over a planet called Nexus Prime. The curse was supposed to kill her slowly, draining away her dragon essence until nothing was left but an empty shell. For 100 years, Serafina had lived as a human on Earth, growing weaker each day. She had chosen Earth because it was far from the dragon worlds, and she thought she could hide here until the curse finally claimed her life. She had tried everything to break the curse, but nothing had worked. The greatest dragon mages in the galaxy had tried to help her, but they had all failed. The curse could only be broken by something that had become very rare in the galaxy, a truly selfless act of kindness from someone who expected nothing in return. Most civilizations had become too advanced, too careful, too suspicious to offer help to strangers. But Katie Miller had done exactly that, without thinking twice about it. As Serafina sat on her couch, she felt the warm glow in her chest growing stronger. The curse was breaking. After 100 years of weakness and pain, her dragon essence was returning. She stood up and walked to the small bathroom mirror. As she looked at her reflection, she saw her blue eyes beginning to glow with a soft golden light. The wrinkles on her face were starting to fade, and her silver hair was turning darker. Her hunched shoulders were straightening, and she felt strength flowing back into her muscles. The transformation was happening slowly, but it was definitely happening. The curse was breaking, and she was becoming herself again. Serafina returned to her living room and sat down on the floor. She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, trying to connect with the dragon network that linked all of her kind across the galaxy. For 100 years, she had been cut off from this network, unable to speak with other dragons or even let them know she was still alive. At first, there was only silence. Then, like a whisper in the darkness, she felt the familiar touch of dragon consciousness. The network was still there, and she was slowly reconnecting to it, but as her connection grew stronger, Serafina realized that her return would not go unnoticed. The dragon network carried all communications between dragons, and the moment she made full contact, every dragon in the galaxy would know that she was alive. Some of those dragons were her friends, members of the Dragon Council who had mourned her disappearance and would be overjoyed to learn she was safe. But others were her enemies, dragons who had wanted her dead and would be very unhappy to discover that she had survived. Serafina stood up and walked to her window. She looked out at the city of Portland with its lights beginning to twinkle. In the evening darkness, somewhere out there, Katie Miller was probably going about her normal life, completely unaware of what she had set in motion. The young woman deserved to know the truth, but Serafina was not sure how to tell her. How do you explain to someone that you are really a 3,000-year-old dragon, and that their kindness has just sent a signal across the galaxy that will bring spaceships to Earth? As Serafina watched the city, she felt her transformation continuing. Her human form was becoming stronger and more alive, but underneath it, Her dragon essence was growing more powerful by the hour. Soon, she would have to choose between maintaining her human disguise or returning to her true form. She thought about Katie Miller and wondered what kind of person the young woman really was. It took a special kind of heart to help a stranger, without being asked, and without expecting anything in return. In all of Serafina's 3,000 years of life, she had met very few beings with that kind of pure kindness. Katie had saved her life, even though she did not know it. The curse would have killed Serafina within days, but now she was free and growing stronger. She owed the young woman a debt that could never be repaid. But she also knew that her salvation would bring danger to Katie's world. The Dragon Network was fully active now, and Serafina could sense the shock and excitement of dragons throughout the galaxy as they realized she was alive. Messages were flying back and forth at the speed of light, and she knew that decisions were being made about what to do next. The Dragon Council would send ships to investigate and to protect her. That was certain. But other dragons, darker ones, might also come. And when they arrived, they would want to know how she had broken the curse that had stumped the greatest minds in the galaxy. They would want to know about Katie Miller. Serafina walked back to her kitchen and looked at the groceries Katie had helped her buy. Such simple things: bread, milk, apples, soup, but they represented something much more important than food. They represented the moment when everything changed. When kindness broke through where power and magic had failed, she picked up an apple and held it in her hands. Tomorrow, she would have to make some difficult decisions. She would have to decide whether to stay hidden or reveal herself. She would have to decide whether to leave Earth or stay and face whatever came next. But tonight, she would remember the feeling of someone caring about her welfare, and she would be grateful for Katie Miller's generous heart. On the other side of the galaxy, in a massive space station that orbited a dying star, alarms began to sound. The station was called Dragon's Heart, and it was the center of the Dragon Council's power. For 3,000 years it had been the meeting place for the most important dragons in the galaxy. The station was enormous, bigger than most planets. It had towers that reached into space and halls that could hold thousands of dragons at once. The walls were made of a metal that sparkled like diamonds, and the floors were carved from stone that came from the first dragon world. In the center of the station was the council chamber, where 12 of the oldest and wisest dragons made decisions that affected billions of lives across hundreds of worlds. Today, all 12 dragons were present, and they were all staring at a glowing orb that floated in the middle of the room. The orb was called the Heart of Connection, and it showed the dragon network that linked all dragons across the galaxy. Right now, it was pulsing with bright golden light, and the dragons could feel excitement and shock flowing through the network like electricity. "It cannot be possible," said Corinth the Wise, the oldest dragon on the council. His scales were silver with age, and his eyes held the memory of 1,000 battles. "Serafina has been dead for over 100 years. "The network does not lie," replied Mystara the Seer, whose purple scales shimmered as she spoke. "She is alive, and her signal is stronger than it has been in a century. The curse has been broken." The other dragons murmured among themselves, their voices echoing through the great chamber. Serafina the Ancient had been one of the most powerful dragons who had ever lived. She had been a warrior, a leader, and a protector of the innocent. When she had disappeared, the entire galaxy had mourned her loss. "How is this possible?" asked Thoric the Bold, a red dragon whose fire burned hotter than most stars. The curse was placed by Malachar himself. No power in the galaxy has been able to break his curses. "Perhaps no dragon power," said Mystara thoughtfully. "But the signal suggests that something else was involved. Something unexpected." The dragons fell silent as they considered this. Malachar the Dark had been one of the most evil dragons who had ever lived. His curses were legendary for their cruelty and their permanence. The curse he had placed on Serafina was designed to slowly drain her life force until she died. Every dragon mage in the galaxy had tried to break it, but none had succeeded. "Where is she?" asked Vorthok the Guardian, whose golden scales reflected the light of the Heart of Connection. Her signal is strong, but it is coming from a very distant part of the galaxy. Mystara closed her eyes and concentrated on the network. She could feel Seraphina's presence like a warm flame in the darkness. She is in the outer rim, in a system called Sol, the third planet from the star. Earth, said Corinth, nodding slowly. A primitive world. The inhabitants have not yet learned to travel between stars. Why would she hide there? Asked Thoric. Because it is the last place anyone would look for her, replied Vorthak. And because the inhabitants are too primitive to threaten her. The dragons considered this in silence. Earth was known to them, but it was considered unimportant. The humans who lived there were still young as a species, and they had not yet developed the technology to leave their own star system. Most dragons paid no attention to such worlds. We must send ships, said Corinth finally. If Seraphina is truly alive, then she is in danger. Malakar's followers will have detected her signal as well, and they will not be happy to learn that. She has survived. How many ships? Asked Vorthak. The Stellar Guard, replied Corinth without hesitation. All 12 ships with our best crews? This is not a mission we can trust to anyone else. The Stellar Guard was the Dragon Council's most elite military force. Each ship was crewed by dragons who had proven themselves in battle, and each ship was equipped with the most advanced technology in the galaxy. They were the Council's answer to any threat that was too dangerous for normal forces to handle. I will lead them, said a voice from the back of the chamber. All the dragons turned to see Commander Lucas Wright walking toward them. He was not a dragon, but a human, and he was the only non-dragon ever to command a Dragon Council squadron. Lucas had earned his position through years of service and incredible bravery. He had fought alongside dragons in dozens of battles, and he had saved the lives of countless dragon warriors. His understanding of both human and dragon psychology made him the perfect choice for missions that involved both species. Very well, said Corinth, nodding his approval. But Commander Wright, you must understand the importance of this mission. Seraphina is not just any dragon. She is one of the ancients, one of the first dragons ever born. Her knowledge and power are beyond measure. I understand, sir, Lucas replied. What are my orders? Find her, protect her, and discover how the curse was broken, said Mystara. The network suggests that her transformation was triggered by contact with another being. We need to know who or what was involved. What about the local population? Asked Lucas. Earth's inhabitants are not aware of our existence. Contact with them could cause panic. Use your judgment, said Corinth. But remember, Seraphina's safety is the priority. If contact with the humans is necessary, then so be it. Lucas nodded and turned to leave, but Mystara called out to him. Commander, there is something else. The network suggests that whoever helped Seraphina is still alive and still on Earth. This being may be in danger as well. In danger from whom? Asked Lucas. From Malakar's followers, replied Thoric grimly. They have been searching for Seraphina for over a century. When they discover that she is alive, they will want to know how she escaped their master's curse. They will not be gentle in their questioning. Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. He had fought against Malakar's followers before, and he knew how ruthless they could be. If they learned that a human had somehow been involved in breaking the curse, that human would be in terrible danger. How long do we have? He asked. Perhaps hours, perhaps days, said Mystara. It depends on how quickly Malakar's forces can organize and travel to Earth, but you must assume that they are already on their way. Lucas saluted the council and hurried toward the docking bay where the Stellar Guard ships were waiting. As he walked through the corridors of Dragon's Heart, he thought about the mission ahead. He had never been to Earth before, though he had studied human civilization as part of his training. The humans were a young species, but they had shown remarkable potential. They were creative, adaptable, and surprisingly brave when faced with danger. If one of them had somehow managed to break a curse that had defeated the greatest dragon mages in the galaxy, then that human was very special indeed. The docking bay was enormous, with 12 berths that could hold the largest ships in the Dragon Council fleet. Each berth contained one of the Stellar Guard vessels, sleek ships that were designed for both speed and combat. The ships were beautiful, with hulls that gleamed like polished silver and engines that could cross the galaxy in days rather than years. Lucas boarded his command ship, the Dragonfire, and made his way to the bridge. His crew was already at their stations, dragons and humans working together as they prepared for departure. The ship's engines hummed with power, and Lucas could feel the excitement of his crew as they prepared for their mission. "All ships report ready for departure," said his second-in-command. A dragon named Zentok, whose blue scales marked him as a member of the Frost Clan. "Set course for Earth," Lucas ordered. "Maximum speed?" "Aye, sir," replied Zentok. "Estimated travel time is 18 hours. As the 12 ships of the Stellar Guard left Dragon's Heart and entered hyperspace, Lucas stood on the bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere in the galaxy, an ancient dragon was alive and free after a century of imprisonment. And somewhere, on a small planet called Earth, a human being had accomplished something that no one else in the galaxy had been able to do. Lucas only hoped they would reach Earth in time to protect both of them from the darkness that was surely coming. Katie Miller was walking home from her evening class at Portland Community College when she noticed something strange. The streetlights on her block were flickering, and some of them had gone out completely. The normal hum of electricity that she never really noticed seemed quieter than usual. She pulled out her phone to check the time, but the screen was black. She pressed the power button several times, but nothing happened. The phone was completely dead, even though she had charged it that morning. "That's weird," she said to herself, putting the phone back in her pocket. She looked around and saw that other people were having the same problem. A man was standing next to his car trying to start it, but the engine would not turn over. A woman was tapping her phone and looking confused. Katie's apartment building was just 2 blocks away, so she decided to walk the rest of the way. As she got closer to her building, she noticed that the whole neighborhood seemed darker than usual. Even the windows in the apartments were dark, as if there was no electricity anywhere. She climbed the stairs to her apartment on the 3rd floor, feeling her way in the darkness. The hallway was completely black, and she had to use the wall to guide herself to her door. When she reached for her keys, she realized that the lock on her door was glowing with a faint blue light. Katie stopped and stared at the lock. She had lived in this apartment for 2 years, and the lock had never glowed before. She touched it gently, and it felt warm under her fingers. The blue light pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. "What is going on?" she whispered to herself. Before she could put her key in the lock, she heard footsteps coming up the stairs behind her. Heavy footsteps, like several people wearing boots. She turned around and saw lights coming up the stairway, but they were not normal flashlights. These lights were bright white and seemed to float in the air. "Katie Miller?" A voice called out. The voice was deep and calm, but it had an accent that she did not recognize. "Who's there?" Katie asked, her heart starting to beat faster. She pressed her back against her apartment door. "My name is Commander Lucas Wright. I need to speak with you about something very important." 3 figures appeared at the top of the stairs, and Katie's breath caught in her throat. They were tall, much taller than normal people, and they were wearing some kind of armor that seemed to be made of metal and light. The armor covered their entire bodies, and their faces were hidden behind helmets that glowed with the same blue light as her door lock. "Please do not be afraid," Commander Wright said, raising his hands to show that he was not carrying any weapons. "We are not here to hurt you. We are here to protect you." "Protect me from what?" Katie asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "And who are you? What happened to the lights?" "The power outage is temporary," Commander Wright explained. "Our ships create an electromagnetic field that interferes with your technology. We apologize for the inconvenience." "Ships?" Katie repeated. "What ships?" One of the other figures stepped forward and touched something on his helmet. The front of the helmet became transparent, and Katie could see his face. He was human, but his skin had a strange glow to it, and his eyes were brighter than normal human eyes. "Miss Miller," Commander Wright said, removing his own helmet, 3 days ago, you helped an elderly woman at a grocery store. You paid for her groceries when she did not have enough money. Katie stared at him in confusion. Yes, I did. Her name was Vera? How do you know about that? The woman you helped was not who she appeared to be, Commander Wright said gently. Her real name is Serafina, and she is not human. She is a dragon. Katie blinked several times, trying to process what she had just heard. A dragon, like in fairy tales? Not like in fairy tales, said the third figure, who had not yet removed his helmet. Dragons are real, Miss Miller. They are an ancient species that has existed for thousands of years. Serafina is one of the oldest and most powerful dragons in the galaxy. This is crazy, Katie said, shaking her head. Dragons are not real, and even if they were, Vera was just a little old lady. She could barely carry her groceries. She was under a curse, Commander Wright explained. A curse that trapped her in human form and slowly drained her life force. She was dying, Miss Miller. She had maybe days left to live. Katie felt dizzy. She leaned against her door and tried to understand what these people were telling her. What does this have to do with me? Your act of kindness broke the curse, Commander Wright said. The curse could only be broken by a completely selfless act from someone who expected nothing in return. You saved her life. But I just bought her groceries, Katie said weakly. It was only a few dollars. It was not about the money, said the third figure, removing his helmet. Katie saw that he was not human at all. His skin was covered in small blue scales and his eyes were golden. It was about the kindness. Pure, selfless kindness has become very rare in the galaxy. Most civilizations have become too careful, too suspicious to help strangers. Katie stared at the scaled being in shock. You're not human either, are you? My name is Zentok, the being said with a slight bow. I am a dragon, though I am currently in my humanoid form. My people have been searching for Serafina for over a century. Why? Katie asked. Because she is very important to us, Commander Wright said. She is one of the ancients, one of the first dragons ever born. Her knowledge and wisdom are beyond measure. When she disappeared, the entire galaxy mourned her loss. Katie looked at the three beings standing in her hallway. A few minutes ago, her biggest worry had been whether she had homework to finish. Now she was learning that dragons were real and that she had, somehow, saved the life of one of the most important beings in the galaxy. What do you want from me? She asked. We want to make sure you are safe, Commander Wright said. When Serafina's signal appeared on our network, it was detected by others as well. Not all dragons are friendly. Some of them are very dangerous, and they will want to know how the curse was broken. Are you saying I'm in danger? Possibly, Zentok said. Malakar's followers have been searching for Serafina for over a century. When they discover that she is alive, they will want to know everything about how she escaped their master's curse. They will not be gentle in their questioning. Katie felt her knees go weak. What am I supposed to do? Right now, you are going to come with us, Commander Wright said. We have ships in orbit around your planet, and we can protect you there while we figure out our next move. Ships in orbit? Katie repeated. How many ships? 12, Commander Wright said. The Stellar Guard, the Dragon Council's most elite force. We came here as soon as we detected Serafina's signal. Katie looked at her apartment door, then back at the three beings standing in her hallway. Her normal life seemed very far away now. What about my job? My school? My life? Your life is not over, Commander Wright said kindly, but it is going to change. What you did for Serafina has consequences that reach far beyond your world. You are part of something much bigger now. Do I have a choice? You always have a choice, Zentok said. But if you stay here, you will be in danger. And if Malakar's followers find you, they will hurt you to get information about Serafina. Katie closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them, she looked at Commander Wright. If I come with you, will I be able to come back? If that is what you want, then yes, he said. But first, we need to keep you safe. And we need to reunite you with Serafina. She is very worried about you. She's worried about me? She knows that her freedom has put you in danger, Commander Wright said. She wants to thank you properly, and she wants to make sure you are protected. Katie looked at her apartment door one more time. Inside was her small, quiet life. Outside, in the hallway, were three beings from another world offering her protection and adventure beyond her wildest dreams. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll come with you," Commander Wright smiled. "You are making the right choice, Miss Miller. Now let's get you to safety." As they walked down the dark hallway toward the stairs, Katie wondered if she would ever see her normal life again. But deep down, she knew that after tonight, nothing would ever be normal again. Katie Miller stood on the bridge of the Dragonfire and stared out at Earth through the massive window. The planet looked small and blue from this distance, with white clouds swirling over the continents. She could not believe that just a few hours ago, she had been walking to her apartment thinking about homework and groceries. The journey to the ship had been amazing and terrifying at the same time. Commander Wright had led her to the roof of her apartment building, where a small craft was waiting. The craft had no visible engines or wings, but it flew smoothly and silently through the night sky. Within minutes, they were in space, approaching one of the 12 massive ships that hung in orbit around Earth. Now, Katie was standing on the bridge of an alien spaceship, surrounded by beings from across the galaxy. Some looked human, like Commander Wright, but others were clearly not from Earth. She had met dragons in their humanoid forms, beings with golden skin and silver eyes, and creatures that seemed to be made of living crystal. "She should be here soon," Commander Wright said, standing beside Katie at the window. "Serafina wanted to meet with you as soon as we brought you aboard." Katie nodded, but she was nervous. Meeting Vera, the elderly woman, had been one thing, but meeting Serafina, the ancient dragon, was something else entirely. She was not sure what to expect. The bridge doors opened with a soft hiss, and Katie turned around. What she saw took her breath away. The woman who entered was tall and graceful, with long dark hair that seemed to shimmer with its own light. Her skin was pale but healthy, and her eyes were the same bright blue that Katie remembered from the grocery store. But now those eyes held power and wisdom that seemed to come from thousands of years of life. She was still recognizably Vera, but she was also clearly much more than that. She moved with the confidence of someone who had ruled worlds and commanded armies. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of ancient authority. "Katie," Serafina said, walking toward her with a warm smile, "I cannot begin to tell you how grateful I am for what you did." "I still don't really understand what I did," Katie said honestly. "I just bought groceries for someone who needed help." "You showed kindness to a stranger without expecting anything in return," Serafina said. "Do you know how rare that has become in this galaxy? Most civilizations have learned to be careful, to question the motives of others, to protect themselves first, but you acted from pure compassion." Serafina reached out and took Katie's hands in hers. Katie felt a warm, tingling sensation, like gentle electricity flowing through her fingers. "The curse that trapped me was designed to be unbreakable," Serafina continued. "It fed on despair and loneliness, growing stronger every day. The only way to break it was through an act of perfect selflessness. For 100 years, I lived among humans, hoping that someone would show me that kind of kindness. You were the first." Katie looked into Serafina's ancient eyes and saw tears forming. "You were really dying?" "I had days left, perhaps hours." Serafina said, "The curse was consuming the last of my life force. If you had not helped me, I would have died alone in that little apartment, and no one would have known what happened to me." "But now you're okay?" "More than okay," Serafina said with a laugh. "I am free, and I am myself again. Watch." Serafina stepped back and closed her eyes. The air around her began to shimmer, and Katie felt the temperature on the bridge rise slightly. When Serafina opened her eyes, they were glowing with golden fire. Her human form began to change. She grew taller and more powerful, her skin taking on a greenish tint that sparkled like emeralds. Her fingernails became claws, and small scales appeared along her arms and neck. When she smiled, Katie could see that her teeth had become sharp and dangerous. "This is my true form," Serafina said, her voice now carrying a deep, rumbling undertone. "I am a dragon, Katie, one of the ancients, and you gave me back my life." Katie stared in amazement. She had never seen anything so beautiful and terrifying. At the same time, Serafina was clearly a being of immense power, but her eyes were still kind and grateful. What happens now? Katie asked. Now you have a choice to make, Serafina said, returning to her human form. The Dragon Council wants to honor you for what you have done. They want to offer you a place among them, a chance to see the galaxy and learn about civilizations beyond Earth. Leave Earth forever? Not forever, Commander Wright said. You could travel with us, learn about other worlds, and return to Earth whenever you wanted. The Council would make sure that you were always welcome among them. But what about my life here, my job, my school? Your job and school will always be there, Serafina said gently. But opportunities like this come once in a lifetime, Katie. You have shown qualities that are precious beyond measure. The galaxy needs people like you. Katie walked back to the window and looked down at Earth. It was beautiful, but it was also small. She had always dreamed of seeing other places, of having adventures beyond her quiet life in Portland. But she had never imagined anything like this. What would I do out there? She asked. Whatever you wanted, Serafina said. You could be an ambassador, helping other young civilizations learn about kindness and cooperation. You could be an explorer, seeing wonders that no human has ever imagined. Or you could simply be yourself, showing others what the best of humanity looks like. The choice is yours, Commander Wright added. But I should tell you that Earth is now under the protection of the Dragon Council. Your world has produced something remarkable, something that saved one of our most important leaders. We will not forget that. Katie turned around and looked at all the beings on the bridge. Dragons, humans, and creatures she could not identify were all watching her. With respect and hope, she thought about her small apartment, her job at the grocery store, and her classes at community college. They seemed very far away now. If I go with you, will I be able to help other people? More than you can imagine, Serafina said. The galaxy is full of young civilizations that could benefit from your example. Your capacity for kindness could change entire worlds. Katie thought about the elderly woman she had helped in the grocery store. At the time, it had seemed like such a small thing. But that small act of kindness had broken an ancient curse and brought 12 of the most advanced ships in the galaxy to Earth. What about my family, my friends? You can visit them whenever you want, Commander Wright said. And if you choose to stay with us, we can make sure they are taken care of. The Dragon Council takes care of its own. Katie looked out at the stars. Beyond Earth's atmosphere, each point of light represented a sun, and many of those suns had planets with their own civilizations and stories. The universe was so much bigger than she had ever realized, and now she had a chance to be part of it. I want to help, she said finally. If my being kind to one person could make such a difference, then maybe I can make a difference for others. Too, Serafina smiled, and for a moment her eyes flashed with golden fire again. You already have, Katie. You have shown the galaxy that humanity is capable of great things. You have proven that kindness is not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. Commander Wright stepped forward. Welcome to the Dragon Council, Katie Miller. Your real adventure is just beginning. As the Dragonfire turned away from Earth and prepared to jump to hyperspace, Katie looked back at her home planet one last time. She was leaving behind everything she had ever known, but she was also starting a new life that would take her to the stars. The 12 ships of the Stellar Guard formed a protective formation around the Dragonfire as they departed Earth's orbit. They were no longer just investigators or protectors. They had become an honor guard for the human woman who had saved an ancient dragon with nothing more than a few dollars and a kind heart. Katie Miller's adventure among the stars was just beginning, but she already knew that she had found her true purpose. In a galaxy that had forgotten the power of simple kindness, she would remind them that sometimes the smallest acts could change everything.